Right. Yeah, folks. So once again, TNTech strikes. These momentary outages that last for a few seconds, and then once that happens, full modem takes a year and a day to reboot. So apologies for that. So it seems we're back up there and we're back up here as well. So I see in the interim we have what appears to be a member of the waterfront ilk or a disciple of the first comment I see pop up on Facebook appears to be a disciple of Professor Misinformation and Captain Clueless, goes by the name of Oliver Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin, you ever heard of something called a dictionary? You know what a racist is? You ever heard me talk anything here with respect to race? Are you a functional illiterate or a consummate dunce? Are you fully dunce, Oliver Benjamin? I don't make it a habit of blocking people, right? But you see, when you come with your nonsense here, we don't encourage that here, especially when you have a filthy mouth that implies that, like Barry Padarath, you should be chewing on toilet paper and gargling with clean bowl. So here what? I'll make an example of you this morning. Right. Roxanne says live going in and out. I think it's the internet connection, Roxanne. It has an yeah. Let's see. Disrespectful in the extreme. I don't have time to entertain these clowns this morning. So I said that I don't normally do these things, but yeah. You have a good life. Anyway, I was making the point, folks, with respect to the headlines in the Express this morning. Highlighting. So now they've graduated the numbers from 12 to 16, and it seems every day they're looking for an opportunity to add more to the count. I don't know what the Express and the expects to achieve from that, right? By causing, because all they continue to do is to cause panic and mass hysteria, fueling mistrust of the public health system, because you would get the distinct and you see they would use this one incident to tarnish the entire health sector and make it seem as if this is a normal occurrence with respect to the NICU. Right? Because I've already heard parents, the CNC3 would have done what people say segment where they went and asked, they spoke to persons who are expecting, parents who are expecting, and they said, they're not sure, they're kind of skeptical, they're worried because they're supposed to go to Port of Spain General Hospital to deliver the baby, and they're concerned and all of this. And they keep doing things to try and fuel that type of environment. And the opposition is only too happy to lend its voice to that because they figure, hey, we get something to latch on to. Right? We get something to latch on to, so let's run with that. I just don't understand what's the sense in that. But I was reading the Guardian also covered the article, right? I'm not going to read the whole thing. A mother couple whose first child died at the Port of Spain General Hospital's neonatal ICU on Christmas Eve last year believes their baby's death should have alerted officials that something was wrong at the unit, preventing further loss of life. I was making the point that I'm certain there were a number of other babies in the NICU unit beside theirs, and if their child was the only one that died between Christmas Eve and when the death would have taken place in February, then clearly couldn't have been a problem with the NICU unit if no other babies were infected, as far as we know. The couple, Roy Richards and Fiola Andrews, yesterday said they had questions about their baby Roxanne's care, and their concerns grew after her death, but they thought no one would take them seriously if they came forward. Then they saw almost daily for the past 2 weeks parents reliving their nightmare of losing their babies. And this is the point that I'm stressing with respect to the Express newspaper and other media houses. Let me read that again. Then they saw almost daily for the past 2 weeks parents reliving their nightmare of losing their babies. That's when they decided to approach senior counsel Anna Ramlogan and Freedom Chambers. They are now included in the class action lawsuit against the NWRHA. I will say no more. I will stop right here because I think the point that I wanted to make has been made, right? So December last year, they're saying that they thought nobody would believe them. And now with this, after seeing this for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they finally built up the courage to go to Freedom Law Chambers and speak to Mr. Ramlogan so that now they have been added to the lawsuit. What is the cutoff? What is the cutoff year in terms of neonatal deaths? Because the Express article says that they've gone as far back now as 2022. The parents of 5 more babies who died at the Port of Spain General Hospital have come forward demanding answers from the MWRHE. And how we demand answers? We go to Mr. Anand Ramlogan and we ask him to put our name, add our name to the list of parents who seeking financial compensation in the lawsuit. Not to request of the NWRHA reports and documents and so on, to sit down with us and have a discussion, which may have happened before, and but you want a different perspective now. But how we do it? We go to Anand Ramlogan. The names of the new babies are contained in a pre-action protocol letter issued yesterday by Freedom Law Chambers, bringing to 16 the number of babies who have died at the facility from bacterial infections and are being represented by the firm. The 5 deaths occurred between 2022 and early 2024, and exclude the most recent death recorded at the hospital on Monday. Senior counsel Anand Ramlogan told the Express Freedom Chambers intends to pursue legal action on behalf of that family as well. Separate legal action will be taken on behalf of the parents of baby Matthew Alexander Ramdas, who died at the San Fernando General Hospital in 2022. So how far back we going? 1962? Because I'm sure there were neonatal deaths in 1962, 63, 64, 65. So how far back we going? How far back is enough, Mr. Ramlogan? See how much money we could make? Of course, some of the parents so we go back 6 decades to 1962. We're starting from 1980. What is the start here? How far back we willing to go to see how much money we could make? How many parents we could add to the listing, right? Because up until now, some of these parents, as far back as 2022, would have been satisfied with the explanation given to them by the NWRHA, the hospital, and so on. And now with this thing, all of a sudden, it seems, and again, I don't want to trivialize people's circumstance, but it seems all of a sudden, some people are just a light bulb just went off. So we joined the lawsuit, right? The baby's gone. You would have come to terms with that child's death, especially if it is that the child died in 2022, 2 years ago. You would have come to terms with that death. And now, I question motive. But anyway, that's me. That's me. Ah, boy. Yeah, Roxanne. So yeah, we can go back to 2010. Nah, we're not going that far back. They don't want to go that far back. Nah. They might reach 20 from September 7, 2015, come forward. But anything prior to that, we're not interested. That's not. Let me just read something from the Guardian article here. The first article that I read. The couple said that their daughter Roxanne was delivered via cesarean section on November 23, 2023. 1 month and a day later, she was dead. The first cause of death, as listed by the hospital, said Roxanne died from Klebsiella pneumoniae, sepsis, and prematurity. The second one stated that the baby died of Klebsiella pneumoniae, sepsis, prematurity, and low birth rate. So there is consistency. They decided to do a private autopsy, and the private autopsy says, which was done by Professor Hubert Daisley, said the child died from a cerebral hemorrhage, consolidation of the lungs, and prematurity. So again, prematurity played a factor, cerebral hemorrhage, which implies perhaps that the child's brain wasn't fully developed, because I have a cousin who, or maybe she should join the lawsuit too. This would have been about 20 years ago, 21 years ago. And I recall when the baby, they said, had water in his brain, and she was allowed to take him home, and he died subsequently, about a week or 2 after, right? So we'll probably go back 20, 30 years. When does it stop? When does it end? We're so concerned about the parents, but and again, I don't want to trivialize, but people don't have a problem making front page of the newspapers. People have a problem appearing on the evening news. Some of these parents understand how this thing makes them look. You can't do this thing in private. Okay, you decide you want to join the class action suit, you go to Mr. Ramlo, you tell him this is the situation. He sent pre-action protocol letter to get whatever information right. Why you had to run to the media? The media is going to help your cause. A class action suit, so it's between you, your lawyer, and the courthouse, and the NWRHA, or the NCRHA, or the SWRHA, whichever RHA you want to sue. Right? So why we feel the need that we need to run to the Express and run to the Guardian? Why is it that Mr. Ramlogan feels that every time a new family comes to him expressing concern and they feel that they may have a case, that you need to alert the media house so they can add to the count and make it a front page story? How does that help the cause? How? You know what I say? But we try to highlight the situation so we could improve. You think the nurses and doctors in the NICU deliberately kill these babies? As some people, I saw somebody wrote an article where they said, I think they were condemning Martin Daly for the terminology that he used, describing it as some kind of killing of the babies. These doctors took what is called a Hippocratic oath to save lives, to first do no harm. Why would they want to? Yes, negligence exists sometimes, but this is invisible bacteria. They can't see. What is also the doctors go inside there, if they have special glasses that they can say, hey, look bacteria there. They will only know what is happening when the babies are affected. Unfortunately, that is the first sign. And they will do whatever it is that they could to treat the baby to try and save the life and sanitize. So I don't understand. Okay, fine. They think they have a case. They agree. You're seeking compensation, which is your right to do. I have no problem with that. Because as Mr. Dayal Singh said, if he was in their situation and his child had died, he would do the same thing. And that is what you call a minister, right? He empathizes them. He's not going to come in the media and cuss all the people and try to embarrass them and say all kind of things and disparage and they make disparaging remarks about the parents because he vexed, because they upset with the level of treatment that was meted out to their child or children. He empathized. He went on national television on one of those morning programs and he said, I understand. It hasn't happened to me, but if it did and I was in their shoes, I would do the exact same thing. I would want compensation. I would want to know what went on. I want to get to the bottom of it. But let me give you stark contrast. Stark contrast, right? But let me put them back. So this was the Saturday Express. What's the headline? We're seeing that. In the face of 11 baby deaths, Kamala calls on the Prime Minister to have a conscience and show humanity. Have a conscience and show humanity. Let me remind you all of something. You know I love to do that. And maybe that's why you have clowns like Mr. Oliver Benjamin just now coming to talk about accusing me of being a racist. Well, you know I don't talk that race talk. Right? I love everybody. In fact, when I tell some people that my ex was a East Indian, and I know there are some people who vex about that, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Jesse, when it comes to race, them things don't matter to me. I have friends of all different ethnicities, and I go to all of them. So let's tell them, miss me with that BS, please. We don't have that here. But anyway, let me get this article. Right, there's an article from dated the 26th of June 2013. Third sextuplet dies. You all recall under the People's Partnership, we had, I believe, our first sextuplet pregnancy, I think, in this country and perhaps even on this side of the world, possibly. Let me read this for you. Health Minister Dr. Fuad Khan says the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, NICU, same NICU, but this one is at Mount Hope, at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, Mount Hope, did everything possible to save Persia, one of the sextuplets born prematurely on March 4th, to Karen Cummings and Petra Lee Foon. Persia, the last of the three sextuplets who were hospitalized after birth, died yesterday at 12:40 a.m., according to sources who wish to remain anonymous. Persia was 4 months old. 4 months old, right? So for 4 months, she was in the care of the NICU. I want you all to listen to this. Notice the difference in approaches and empathizing. Prasad Bisesa is calling for 11 baby, well, 11 in the face of 11 baby deaths, she's calling on the PM to have a conscience and show humanity. Let me give you their example of conscience and humanity, right? Khan, in a telephone interview yesterday, said from a verbal report he received, he understood Persia suffered from an increased fontanelle, the gap between the bones of the baby's skull. Khan said this condition seemed to indicate Persia had hydrocephalus, defined by Wikipedia as water on the brain. Water on the brain. So same thing I told you about my cousin experienced, and it seems this latest couple to join the lawsuit based on the autopsy, the private autopsy, which they requested, that the baby would have died from possibly the same thing. But I continue. Khan also said she had congenital malformation of the lungs. Again, same thing, this autopsy that I just read for you all. Issue with the lungs, issue with the brain. And as a result, her lungs were smaller than they should have been. So as Persia grew, she was unable to breathe on her own. He said the baby's death had nothing to do with the quality of care she received. No matter what part of the world she was in, I doubt they could give her a new lung or brain. Talking compassion, we're talking conscience, we're talking humanity, PP style or UNC style. He said the 3 remaining sextuplets are at home, thriving and doing very well. Khan said as far as he was aware, both parents had been informed of Persia's condition and were given information and made aware of what was going on as the months passed. The neonatal unit did all that was possible to save her. This is right. Khan speaking. Chairman of the North Central Regional Health Authority, Dr. Shahnaz Mohammed, said yesterday Persia was resuscitated late in the night and died early yesterday morning. Baby Persia had a number of congenital abnormalities detected at birth. She said. Mohammed said the baby's parents had been told about the child's poor prognosis. She said the baby was put on a ventilator at birth and later weaned off, of it. But approximately a month and a half ago, she was put back on the ventilator because she had chest problems. A May 6th TNT Guardian report said Persia had pneumonia and her situation was described as critical. When asked if Persia's death had anything to do with the standard of care she received, Mohammed said no, Persia received care that was in keeping with international standards. Mohammed offered condolences to the baby's parents on the authorities' behalf as well as on behalf of the NICU staff. Let me get this other one. Right, where is it? Right, this is the article I wanted. Same thing. Let me get it here. The sextuplets parents, all right, so in response to this couple, right, 6 babies, 3 died. One can appreciate and understand. If you just had 6 babies, 3 died, the emotional state that you're in, so you're overwhelmed. It's not 1, it's not 2. This child, and the last one would have lasted for 4 months. So you were holding on, hope it was looking good. Maybe we touch on go, yes, but it looks like she might survive, and we're looking forward to bringing her home. 2 have already died, and we're hoping that she will make it. She didn't make it. So understand the emotional state, the mental state that this couple is in, right? Listen to the compassion, the humanity, the conscience of the then Minister of Health. Far cry from what our current Minister of Health would have done a few days ago when he made his appearance on the morning show. The title of the article, Ungrateful. Fuad blasts up sextuplet parents on complaints. The sextuplets parents are ungrateful and owe the government, the Prime Minister and the taxpayers of this country a huge thank you for all that was done to ensure that the mother and babies had the best possible care, Health Minister Dr. Fuad Khan said yesterday. The March 4th birth of the sextuplets to Petra Lee Foon, a teacher, and Karen Cummings, a bank employee, was a first for Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. Extensive plans were put in place at the Mount Hope Women's Hospital to ensure smooth cesarean section delivery of the babies, and close to $5 million was spent to purchase equipment for the babies aftercare at the hospital's neonatal extensive care unit. 2 of the babies, the youngest and the eldest, have since died. Cummings, according to a Guardian report, said he regretted not taking his wife abroad as he was dissatisfied with the aftercare at Mount Hope. An upset Khan, speaking to the Express yesterday, after the post-cabinet news conference at the St. Clair office of the Prime Minister, took issue with Cummings' statement. Listen to this, to compassion. Listen to conscience and humanity. I hope he doesn't have a complaint about the house now that he has gotten from the government. I wonder if he will say that the room is too small, or they need air conditioning, or they need to add another story. Looking at their method of approach to what the health sector did for them, and to know what is happening now, sometimes people have to be grateful in life, Khan said. Last Friday, the parents were given keys to a 3-bedroom HDC home in Edinburgh 500. Cummings, following the birth of his babies, had said that the top priority was having a home to raise his children, as he lived with his parents in Arima and the mother lived with her parents in Central. Cummings said he had plans to marry his baby's mother following her recovery. Khan said not only were millions spent to ensure the babies had first-class treatment, great sacrifices were made also, as other babies had to be accommodated at the Port of Spain Hospital and San Fernando General Hospital when the sextuplets were at the NICU. Khan says, I think at the end of the day, when people get things easy, they don't appreciate it. Questioned on the aftercare of the babies at the NICU, which Cummings had taken issue with, Khan responded. According to the head of the neonatal unit, Dr. Kamani Lachman, she indicated to me that the aftercare was on international standards based on all things we put in place. Now, at the end of the day, one has to ask, what is the motive? Why are they doing this? Khan said. Time has come to actually tell the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and hopefully the Prime Minister, thank you for the house when other people didn't get it. And thank you for bending over backwards to assist us, Khan added. He questioned further how exactly was Cummings going to afford international care for his wife and babies if he had to apply for government housing and depended on the HDC for a home. Khan said the public health sector strives to deliver the best care possible for all patients and will continue despite the negative comments from persons who are ungrateful. He said further that the pregnancy was not a natural one, as fertility drugs were used. Look at, you see where he gone, eh? All right. One has to investigate the use of Clomid. Clomid brings out congenital birth malformations, said Khan, as he stressed that in these pregnancies where the babies are premature, there are numerous complications, and therefore it was unjust to blame the health system for the 2 babies that died. Khan said studies were done on the drug that needed to be looked at. You see where he went? They're ungrateful. No regard for the emotional state that they're in, that 3 of their 6 babies just died. I am certain Mr. Cummings didn't go and say, we could get a house, Madam Prime Minister, we could get a house. The man probably mentioned, he's being interviewed by the media and he expresses, well, these are my plans and so on. I live at my parents' home. She lives at her parents' home. So we understand now that we have these babies. The man was working in the bank. The wife was a teacher. He working in the bank. The wife is a teacher. So I'm almost certain they may have been able to qualify for a mortgage. Yeah? But because of the circumstance, and you know how the PPDs operate, they're looking for political mileage. Well, let's give them a home, an HTC home. Yeah. Lights, camera, action. People say, yeah, look how, do you see the government caring? Look how they love people. Look how they help out. Well, you give the man a house, which he was grateful for. But he mustn't complain. Hush your mouth. So if it is that you were dissatisfied with the quality of care that was given to your wife, well, your soon-to-be wife and kids, and 3 died, don't complain because we give you a house, a HTC house. Shut up. That's basically what he said. You should be grateful. So even if the next 3 die as well, hush your mouth because we give you a house, right? And you have people who apply to HTC donkey years long before you and waiting. So who knows? Maybe the guy probably applied to HTC. His fiancée probably applied to the HTC too, and they probably waiting a while. But you decided to bring up the application because of their circumstance. So according to Khan, we do them a favor. So they need to shut up. Do not criticize. They need to come and genuflect and kowtow to Mrs. Prasad and tell her thank you. Thank you so much for giving us a HTC house. Right? And then you want to come, oh, he ungrateful. So is he now going to complain that the house too small and the room's too small and we need a 2-story and we need to add on this and all of that. This is the Minister of Health. Where was his compassion? Where was his conscience? Where was his humanity? And then you come now to tell the public. So if the people private information that, okay, there were fertility drugs involved. So maybe they had been trying to have a baby for a while and they weren't successful and they decided to go that way. They are not doctors, so I'm sure they didn't go and prescribe to themselves, or they didn't go to the pharmacy and say, hey, we're trying to have a baby, but we have some difficulties. You could recommend something. I'm sure they would have gone to the doctors. The doctor would have do the test, the child, and diagnose why they were having difficulty in getting pregnant and probably prescribe that. Why you had to bring that in the public domain and expose the people business? That is compassion. That is conscience and humanity. So you have to shame the people just because they complain of the court. They didn't sue the government. He should have been happy about that. And just because the guys say, I should have taken my wife abroad, because this is something playing on your mind. And I'm sure this is something that they would have probably considered. Maybe we should go abroad. So here, if you had to depend on a HGC house, where was getting the money from to take your wife abroad for treatment? The wife is a teacher, the husband and the guy is a working in the bank. Right? Let me just give you all an example. And you see these people so low and crass and nasty. But it's okay. If Terence Dale Singh had done something like that to criticize any of these families and say something like that, bet your bottom dollar, Dr. Rowley would have bust the truth. That is unacceptable. Because look, just last week in the media conference when Akash Samaru and other members of the media were saying, they've been reaching out to ministers, posing questions, and they're not getting any responses and from the ministers and the ministries. And the Prime Minister said, if any of my ministers are doing that, then they're in the wrong business. And he repeated that. Any of my ministers not taking questions from the media, not answering and responding to you all, they're in the wrong business. So he didn't take for his ministers and try to create an excuse. He let them know, if you all are in fact doing that, I don't have empirical evidence of that. But if in fact, and he knows his ministers are listening, if all you're doing that, you all are in the wrong business. Right? And you all need to reconsider. So I could safely say that if it was Mr. Dayal Singh, after a press conference, a cabinet press conference, or at a cabinet press conference, sought to chastise a couple who lost the child in this manner, to shame the people, right? Sure, Dr. Rowley would have dealt with it comprehensively. He would have been unemployed today. But what Ms. Musavi said do? So I can't remain the Minister of Health. Did she say, no, that is unacceptable? Did she come to make a public apology for him and to say that he was out of place? No, that's okay. Because she's looking for genuflection too. She's looking for obeisance too. She's looking for them to come and kneel down and kiss the ring. Mwah, thank you. Thank you. That's what she was looking for, and she didn't get that. Right? Boy. And well, let me put them back. Let's put them back. That was compassion, and that was conscience, and that was humanity. To ridicule the people in public. They don't have a right. But I was making a point. Let me just give you all an example. Because you see, he feels, well, you needed a HDC house, so you can't afford to buy a house on your own. You can't afford to get a mortgage. So if you need a HDC house, you're hard up. You're suffering. So how you was going and pay for your wife abroad? As I said, the man working in the bank and his wife was a teacher. As a former bank employee, I am well aware the bank has a health plan. And I think the Ministry of Health also, the Ministry of Education, government by extension, for some public workers have health plans. Well, let me just give you all an example, right? So a friend of mine sent me something yesterday. She had an experience where she went abroad to do a procedure. There were some complications. And she ended up in ICU in a US hospital, right? That wasn't the intention, but it happened. And she ended up in ICU. For 1 week, she was in the hospital. And during her stay at the hospital, they had to do a certain surgical procedure because of her circumstance. Now, they asked her if she had health insurance. And she said, she does, but she doesn't know what the limit is, what it covers, and so on. Fortunately, she had a health card with her. And she presented it to them. And they said, okay, they took the information. This was 2 years ago. Recently, 2 months ago, so she would have gotten a notification from her insurance provider with respect to the claim, because the hospital finally made the claim for her stay 2 years later, right? Let me just tell you all this. The total cost of that 1 week stay in that US hospital, because as you know, in the US, they don't have universal healthcare as we do here. You could go and lie down in the hospital for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 5 months, whatever. And when you leave, you have nothing to pay. They give you a prescription to go to the pharmacy, to the dispensary to get your medication and so on, right? Her total bill for 1 week in a US hospital came up to TT equivalent, $773,543.21. Let me repeat that figure for you. $773,543.21. A 1 week stay in the hospital. Right? Almost $1 million. And guess what? The insurance company paid it. Her local insurance, because she had health insurance. So when this upstart figured that the man couldn't afford because all they give him a HTC house, he working in the bank. I know which bank you working in, right? I was in the same bank. And I could tell you, the health plan there was very good. Very good. So, and I more than once in the case of with the babies there, you don't know the man individual circumstance, right? You come out and say, your guy HTC house, so that means you're hard up, you're broken, you're poor. And this is the mindset. So you understand the mindset that at least Dr. Khan has for persons who live in HTC homes. So all who live in an HTC house, who get HTC house, all is supposed to be hard up and poor. You all can't afford to go abroad to seek medical treatment for nothing. You're not supposed to have private health plans, right? Your only port of call if you get sick is to go and scrub bench in one of the local hospitals. Your pocket's not deep like his to be able to afford to go abroad. Because there's only certain ilk of persons apparently can afford health plans to go abroad for treatment. But enough on that in the interest of time. Let me express my disappointment this morning. Right? I'm only going to deal with one other thing in the interest of time. This is the Sunday Express. Right? I don't know how many of you got your copy, but I want to focus on this. $15 million pardon. Right? 15 million pardon. Now, I know a lot of people don't buy hard copy newspaper anymore. You get the story online. Some people have online subscriptions and so on. But if you're not really inclined towards buying newspapers and you didn't see the article, you may have missed this. 15 million pardon. Ex-convict, drug trafficker, paid off lawyers, politicians. For the last 2 days, I have been tuning into different radio stations, morning shows, televisions, whatever, right? I have been listening, looking at the newspapers, looking at social media for commentary. Normally, when something like this appears on the newspaper, you would on Facebook, social media platforms, you would expect to see a lot of comments. You have the Headline Readers Association who wouldn't open the link and read the story, right? But they would just comment on it. I noted that on Monday night at the forum, there was no talk about this. No talk on this story at the Monday night forum. Not one person mentioned it. I listened to several contributions that they have made in the parliament over the last couple of days. Nobody talked about that. And I think it was Monday morning, the only reference I heard made to this story was on I-95.5, the supposed most influential name in talk radio. The morning show where Tony Lee attempted to address the article, but he did so in a most jocular manner. And it seemed that his sidekick wasn't too interested in discussing that story because Tony Lee would have mentioned it on 3 occasions. On the 3rd occasion, he decided to go a little bit in depth, to which his sidekick said, well, you seem to be pretty interested in that story. But again, Mr. Lee's treatment of the story was in a more jocular fashion. So it wasn't serious. He didn't really go in depth, except to say, he's surprised by this. This is, right. And they left it there. They didn't do the full show on Monday because they had some paid program, and that was the end of that. But I would have thought that a story like this, when one reads and the content, that you would have seen newspaper editorials, that members of the media houses would have contacted. Now, if this was an allegation made against the People's National Movement, you know what happened? Monday morning, they would have interviewed Martin George, Martin Daly. They would have called the DPP to have an in-studio or online interview, the Law Association, and the former president, based on what is in the article. But none of that happened. No editorial speaking to this. No comment from the UNC. And we know they buy newspapers because they love to reference, because yesterday in the parliament, in the Senate, there was reference to certain newspaper articles and they were quoting liberally. So I don't know if it is they missed this article on Sunday. Probably when the Doglaya went to buy his doubles and coffee. I don't know if it is the paper's seller. Because again, if this was a story and the accusation was made against somebody in the PNM, he couldn't wait to get back in his car. He might have done the doubles and coffee live right in front of the double stand. But no word from him. I went to Munilal Facebook page, it's not there. Kamla Facebook page, it's not there. Jayanti Facebook page, it's not there. Why am I so disappointed? For those of you who may not have come across it, let me just see how quickly I can read it. Ex-convict claims drug trafficker on life sentence paid off lawyers and politician. US $2.2 million to get a presidential pardon. A Caribbean, could I really see you for a while? Oh Lord. Yes. A Caribbean national serving a life sentence for drug trafficking in this country more than a decade ago, devised a scheme to pay US 2.2 million or 14.9 million TT for a presidential pardon, which eventually saw him being set free. It was done with the help of two Trinidadians, another man who was serving a life sentence for murder at the time, and a well-known attorney. A well-known attorney. So that is the first thing you need to highlight in that article. Well-known. How many well-known attorneys we have in this country? So right away, light bulbs. I continue. The lawyer assured the Caribbean national that he would be pardoned once there was an upfront US $1 million payment in 2011-2012. The convict's pardon was considered in 2013. 1 acre of land in the Caribbean national's home was also promised as recompense to the local convict, who at the time was also serving a life sentence and who helped the Caribbean national connect with the lawyer. The Trinidadian convict, recently freed from prison after serving more than 20 years for murder, told the Sunday Express that he had disclosed this plan to the special branch police officers during a statement they took from him in 2021. So this matter is under police investigation. Since 2021, this man has given a statement in 2024. You see, I don't understand. I wish somebody could enlighten me as to what is the process of a police investigation. What is the process? That these investigations have to take so long. And then so the investigations have to take a year and a day. Well, you know what that means. And then when they finally charge somebody, it's another year and a day before the matter is even heard before the courts. But anyway, in the interest of time, he also provided to the special branch officers WhatsApp voice notes and telephone conversations he said he had with the Caribbean national in 2022. The man admitted he had paid to be given a pardon. So the Caribbean national, WhatsApp conversation, voice notes with the Trini convict who just come out. So you're hearing the conversation. So the police said, yes, the man is admitted. He isn't aware that this individual is going to take this information to the police. Right? He's not aware of that. So he think, I'm talking to my partner, I think we cool or whatever, exchanging voice notes, exchanging WhatsApp conversation. So they give you a transcript here. The local ex-convict gave the Sunday Express a copy of his statement along with supporting documentation showing the land he had received from the Caribbean national, who had been his cellmate at the maximum security prison in Aruca, as well as excerpts of his conversations with his cellmate at prison. I want everyone to know that this plan was hatched in 2011. 2011. So they came into office in the middle of 2010. And by 2011, just about a year later, all this set of crookery, they couldn't wait. Just 1 year later, look at the extent of the crookery. And you know what is of even more concern to me? Is that 9 years later, 9 years since these bastards have been ousted from office, we still don't know the full extent of the corruption that took place. That it took us 9 years to hear about this one. But how many more it have that are yet to be unearthed? How many more are there that we don't know about, right? And they want to get back into office before those are unearthed. So if they get back into office in 2025, well, what we ain't find out yet, they could try and see what they could do to sanitize and get rid of any evidence, so we will never know. So when they're talking about they need to come back into office to improve the lot of the country and to save the citizens on the wicked and evil road, no, it's to save themselves from spending the rest of their natural lives in a prison cell because they know what hasn't been discovered yet and what they need to fix. I continue. In the ex-convict's police statement, he stated, name called, asked if my friend, attorney's name called, could link a pardon for him. He was also willing to pay a lot of money in return. He was aware that both the attorney and another attorney name called were good. The Trinidadian ex-convict continued in his police statement that, additionally, he told me that his sister was a government official in their home country and how he would get in contact with her to come and make arrangements with the local attorney and the other attorney so they would know that it is a serious matter. So we have a government official from another Caribbean country whose brother is a big drug trafficker because he was serving a life sentence in Trinidad for drug trafficking. So you understand the extent to which this went. So we have a public official in another country, another Caribbean country, who may need to face a charge of misbehavior in public office. It goes on. Right, just now. Somehow, the government changed their plans to pardon prisoners. I believe it had something to do with Hubert Volney, the Minister of Justice at the time, but the pardon for the Caribbean national didn't stop. So the pardon for the locals stopped. You all remember in 2012, for the country's 50th anniversary celebrations, somebody came up with the bright idea to mark the 50th anniversary of independence, we will free 50 prisoners. You all remember that? And it was sold to us as this is something so magnanimous, right? The kind gesture of the government to free 50 prisoners who, have been languishing. Some of them have been languishing on remand for years. Some of them, they're serving sentences, lengthy sentences, but they've been model citizens while they've been in the prison. And they can no longer be deemed a threat to society. They paid their dues. They're doing well. There's some of them preaching in the prison, some of them teaching in the prison. So we can let them out as a gesture for the 50th anniversary. And while the country applauding them, yeah, well done. Good job, government. Good job. Instead, and right, because the more we free is the better chance we have to hide the drug trafficker who pay our money, and the next one, as you will hear about. So when we applauding them for doing something good, not me, because I don't trust them on any scope. Anything that they do that even hints of being magnanimous, I have suspicions of ulterior motives. And it seems in this instance I wasn't wrong. But I continue. He said, I believe it had something to do with Hubert Volney, right? I talked to the attorney, and he told me he would talk to the other attorney and contact me. Once contacted, he asked me how much the man, the Caribbean national, was willing to pay. After I talked to the Caribbean national, he told me he was willing to pay $2 million for his pardon and questioned whether it can be done. I got into contact with the attorney and I told him about the amount. The attorney then notified me that it would be several persons involved. So everyone will have to agree. He told me that a politician name called, so let's get this here. Right. He told me a politician name called has to okay it first. A politician. So by now, I think by process of elimination, all you're bright, we could try and figure out who the attorney is, the well-known attorney, and who the politician is, right? But in the interest of time, just to jump ahead, well, no, let me go out. You see, it's times like this as Miss Rhoda Barrett and News Source. She would not let it slide, as the other media houses seem to, and other persons as well. But we will come to that. Let me get this here. Right. He told me that a politician name called has to okay it first. So it means that this politician is in a position that he can influence the process of granting a pardon. So by process of elimination, we can figure out who that politician is and the position that he held. Because the Minister of Health can't grant no pardon. The Minister of Sport can't grant no pardon. The Minister of Energy is not involved in granting pardon. So we could, by a process of elimination, identify who are the politicians who have influence over the process or are involved in the process of granting pardons. All you're right. I continue. Right. So he says, so the politician has to okay it first, but then he asked if he could get the Caribbean national to add US $200,000 more, and he will get another attorney name called to agree and have it done. So the attorney, the well-known attorney, told the man here, what? There's several persons involved in this thing. Eh? So everybody had to eat our food. Everybody had to drink our juice. You understand? This is a serious matter. So it's not just me alone. It's not just me and the politician. that other people we have to influence, other people we need to convince. We need to get on our side in order for he to get a pardon. And based on the number of people involved, we need an additional 200,000 US. The Caribbean national agreed because he just needed his freedom at this point. I asked, Caribbean national, what would I get after helping? He said if he really got his freedom, I could get an acre of land or money. He told me that he and his brother, who is one of the biggest businessmen in Caribbean country named, has 2 acres and he would give me an acre once freed. I aided and wanted the land, so I got excited about all of this. I talked a lot about this to the local attorney and he told me to let the Caribbean national sister come to Trinidad. I can't remember exactly when, but she did come and had meetings. Afterwards, the local attorney told her what needed to be done and then told me, he said Caribbean National has to get a neutral lawyer to do a petition to the president and they will see about it after that. So he had to get a neutral lawyer. It can't be me, right? Can't be me because everybody know me. So tell him the process, part of the process, he just had to get a lawyer to do up a request for him, right? A petition on his behalf and get it to me and we will take it from there, right? The Trinidadian ex-convict in his police statement said in one of my previous conversations with the local attorney, he told me that another attorney name said that they cannot pardon the Caribbean national alone. They have to pardon a few other men along with him. And there came the idea, 50th anniversary, we will free 50 prisoners. And for the population will be so focused on that, we could hide this Caribbean national in that 50. Because we're not going to release the names, we will just say 50 prisoners will pardon. The ex-convict further recalled in his police statement that the Caribbean national was pardoned sometime in 2013 after the 2012 pardoning of 50 prisoners was cancelled. The ex-convict said he was later notified by the attorney that everything looking good, and they also agreed to pardon a few other prisoners along with the Caribbean national. So understand the extent, same country as the Caribbean national, and who was jointly charged with him for drug trafficking, was pardoned along with 4 other local men. But these pardons have never been reported in the media, legal sources indicated. Let me repeat that. But these pardons have never been reported in the media. Several legal sources confirmed that these men were pardoned and indicated they had no prior knowledge of what arrangements had been made by this particular Caribbean national or what payments had been made. Yeah, well, I hear about that. I know the pardon said, but you see, but money pass? I didn't know that. What you saying? All that money, 2.2 million US pass? Well, in case, let me tell you, I didn't know about that. So in case all the suspect, I am the lawyer who did the petition. No, it wasn't me. I want my name called up in that bacchanal. Because if this matter is under police investigation, I ain't want the police come and knock on my door to ask me no question. Well, they don't quote my name in that papers. I just tell them, no, I am aware that they pardoned these 6 men, but I was not aware all this bacchanal take place behind the scene. I continue. The Trinidadian ex-convict, right, added in his police statement that the local attorney told me that he received the money and everything was straight. The Trinidadian ex-convict said in his statement that the Caribbean national later contacted him and his brother. The Caribbean national told me how I would see that he's a man of his word. He said his brother, who usually visits Trinidad for Carnival, will be coming for Carnival in 2014, and that's how he needed my brother to travel back to his homeland with him so that he can start organizing the land for me. But he in jail, so he can't organize no documents. So the brother is his proxy. His brother came for Carnival and my brother left with him to Caribbean island named. The ex-convict said his brother was shown the land and later again visited the island, and the land was signed over to his brother's name. So it could be proven, right? If he's saying this, we know, well, let me see. If you say you get land for this transaction, you have a deed, yeah, look the deed there. So the man could prove that this thing actually took place. This is not just, we don't come and say the PNM paid the man. I continue. The Sunday Express, the land document showed exactly where the acre of land was situated on the island in question. It was a parcel of land numbered 109 and was titled Agreement of Absolute Gift of Land. According to the agreement, the land was being given to the brother of the ex-convict as a result of the ex-convict's assistance to the Caribbean national while he was detained. The agreement stated the decision by the donor to vest parcel 109 in the donee is to reflect his immeasurable gratitude for the unwavering attention, care, compassion, and concern bestowed on his sibling, name of Caribbean national called, who resides at address stated during the latter's penal detention in Trinidad, and who, during detention, the donor acknowledged and was aware that his sibling experienced and relied upon loyal kinship of the donee, who then became a proverbial friend, closer than a brother. This provided emotional and material support to the maximum extent allowed in the circumstance, thereby cushioning the pain of his circumstance. The ex-convict's brother, whose name was placed on the land, confirmed to the Sunday Express that he did go to the Caribbean island and signed off to obtain the land on his brother's behalf. I did go there, and the land was later signed off to my name due to how my brother helped the Caribbean national, helped him to get the pardon, and that's why they promised him, and that's what they promised him in return, and they didn't go back on their word. He added that he also met with the Caribbean national's sister, who had visited his family here in 2015. The Sunday Express cross-referenced the name of the Caribbean national's sister and any trips she would have made to this country. The Sunday Express was able to verify through immigration sources that the sister of the Caribbean national visited this country in July 2011 for 8 days, January 2012 for 6 days, and also came in February 2015 between the period February 13 to 25th. Based on my information and knowledge, I am told that the monies were paid sometime between 2011 and 2012. I do not know exactly how the money was paid, whether it was brought into the country or paid another way, but the attorney confirmed to me that they had received the money, the ex-convict said. In 2022, the ex-convict recorded follow-up telephone conversations with the Caribbean national, which he later gave to the authorities. So he has recorded phone conversations with this drug trafficker from another country who was tried and convicted in Trinidad and Tobago of drug trafficking, and the quantum of drugs was so significant that he got a life sentence. They didn't give him 5 years. They didn't give him 10 years. He didn't get a non-custodial sentence. They sentenced him to prison for the rest of his life. Right? You know, this is why I do not like to read comments while I'm. Who is this clown talking about still being in the UNC, PNM running, whatever? Look, let me continue. In 2022, they arrived. During these conversations, the Caribbean national mentioned paying for his pardon and freedom. So the person who put that comment, let me tell you something. You want to know why I'm reading this? And this has nothing to do with blaming the UNC. All right? Because there are plenty of things I could blame them for. The next time you're reading the newspapers or you see on the news a man accused of murder get bail, who to blame? Which PNM lawyer went to the court and asked the court to overturn a 105 law that made it impossible for murder accused to get bail? Which one? Let me tell you who it was. Jayanti Lakshmi, Anna Ramlogan, and other UNC attorneys. So when you all want to come here with your nonsense to talk about still blaming the UNC, miss me with that bullspit. Miss me with that. Anyway, the point I am making here, you know, Mark Basanta had to say I'm disappointed in you. Because, let me use a term from Fitzgerald Hines to describe this article. We have the story and chinks in with the rest. When we see the depths to which he went, with respect to the story on Foster Cummins, we got a Sunday article just like this, and it was followed up with a 4-part miniseries in the TV6 News the following week, where he went so far as to go into Foster Cummins' house with camera, going in all the man bathroom and all kind of thing. We had to see everything, the man backyard, the swimming pool and whatnot. We were treated to detailed statements, copies of deposit slips, and all of that. We went in depth to treat with this issue of Foster Cummins taking a loan from the credit union, which has since been repaid. No malfeasance. The only issue they had was that the amount that he borrowed, they claim, was above the limit, the normal lending limit for the credit union. And they had some issues with what he would have pledged as collateral and so on, right? But no accusation of any malfeasance or any misbehavior in public office. But Mr. Bassat went deep into that. But in this story here, so names redacted, understandably, because it's under police investigation. We don't know how long again this investigation will take. Now, questions have to be asked whether or not this story may be deemed an act of tipping off. Because if the parties, the players involved, the well-known attorney, the politician, and the other attorneys who were involved weren't aware that there was a police investigation into this matter, if they weren't aware that the police is now aware and in possession of information that this crime took place, they are aware now. And so if man need to cover the tracks, if man need to decide, you know what, I think it's time for me to pack up shop in Trinidad, hop on a plane and make my way out because, and I need to look for a country where there's no extradition treaty. Yeah? Because if you didn't know, now they know. Now they know. So it's for the police and whoever else to determine whether or not this may be deemed tipping off. But there are so many things missing from this article, which I think it would have been very easy for Mr. Mark Basant to get. Seeing as how he was able to get other information, he was able to get access to immigration logs to see the dates when the convict sister came in and so on. Here's the information I would have liked to have gotten Mr. Basant. This is said to have happened between 2011, 2013, right? This involves the highest office in the land, the president. Because the only persons or the only entity that could grant pardons is the president on the advice of the Mercy Committee. The Mercy Committee comprises the Minister of National Security, who is the chairman of the committee, the Attorney General, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and 4 other persons appointed by the president. So it's a very small team of persons who would sit down to consider these applications for pardons, right? So the circle is very small. It didn't have to figure out. And we are told that, that after the plan was abandoned in 2012, they continued the pursuit of the pardon for this individual into 2013. In 2013, we had 3 ministers of national security. Jack Warner, who resigned on the 21st of April, and he was replaced by Emmanuel George on the 22nd of April. And Emmanuel George got a Kobo sweat, a 5-month Kobo sweat in that position, and he was replaced by Gary Griffith on the 6th of September, 2013. Now, all Mr. Basant had to do, if he was really interested, was to file a Freedom of Information request on the Ministry of National Security to inquire how many times did the Mercy Committee meet in 2013, and when was this decision to pardon these 6 prisoners, since it wasn't reported in the newspaper, when was that decision taken? And once we get that information, we could determine who was the Minister of National Security that chaired that meeting where the decision was taken to pardon this man or these 2 foreign nationals and the other locals. That's all he had to do. But the article doesn't say that he do that. So we are left guessing, because the ex-convict is saying it happened sometime in 2013. But we don't know if it was the first quarter, the second half, or the third quarter. Right? We don't know. We don't know. So we would love to know. So we can identify. Now I noted a story as serious as this. I went on Gary Griffith page. I didn't see no commentary there. No post on it. But I bet you, if they said this had taken place between 2018 to 2021, or 2020 to 2022, I bet you Mr. Griffith would have had plenty to say. We would have been treated to a whole article. As I said before, we would have gotten a number of newspaper editorials on this matter. You would have heard Munilal. The government needs to come clean, because the other day when Pastor Brown of SSA fame said that SSA was surveilling some government minister, Munilal and Kamla come out. Pastor Brown needs to tell us who is this government minister who was under surveillance, and we demand to know, and the country needs to know, and all of that nonsense. Right? When they were talking about indemnity with Vincent Nelson, they were concerned about the involvement of the president, that this conspiracy between Faris Al-Rawi and Vincent Nelson and whoever else tainted the office of the president, and they would bring the president into this thing and one set, and they want to know if it is the president was approached for this pardon and all of that. But they had no problem in 2011, 2012, 2013 tainting the office of president, because at the end of the day, it's the signature of the president that would have given effect to the pardon. In 2013, we had 2 presidents. George Maxwell Richards was president until the 18th of March, 2013, and he was then succeeded by one Anthony Carmona, Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, from the 18th of March, 2013 to the 18th of March, 2018, when he was succeeded by Paula May Weeks. Right? So again, Mr. Basant could do some research. So if you find out when the Mercy Committee met, and when this pardon was granted, when it was signed off by the president, we could determine if it was Max Richards or if it was Carmona. But regardless of which one it is, they still tainted the office of the president and involved. The highest office in the land is now being called into question with respect to a grand conspiracy where $2.2 million was paid so that a drug trafficker serving a life sentence in this country could get out of jail free card. Only thing, the card wasn't free. He had to pay $2.2 million to get it. And he got. The likelihood is that this $2.2 million would have been the product of ill-gotten gains. In other words, that's drugs money. $2.2 million of drug money was paid allegedly to a politician and a lawyer and whoever else. Now the lawyer says several persons involved. Now I would think that if you tell me several persons involved, and the only people who can make that decision ultimately at the end of the day is the Mercy Committee, which comprises 7 people, and you tell me several other persons are involved. If I know I sat on the Mercy Committee when this decision was made, and I played no part in this grand conspiracy, I would want to come out and talk, because I don't want people thinking that I get money. So the DPP, who was in office then, and is still in office today, ought to clear his name. I am not implying that he got anything, but I'm saying based on what the article says, that several persons were involved. And the only persons who could make that decision to grant this pardon were those 7 people. Then the DPP should indicate whether or not it was a unanimous decision if all 7 persons on the Mercy Committee, and I think I read somewhere else that implied that the Prime Minister may also play a role in that committee, if in fact that is the case. The DPP should say, and this is what the UNC and this is what Munilal and they would have said if this was an accusation made against the PNM. The DPP needs to tell us whether it was a unanimous decision or whether or not there was a dissenting voice or voices. Did he approve of this, given the fact that his office would have expended significant resources, human resources, time, money, to prosecute this case, to ensure that this individual got a life sentence? Not a non-custodial sentence. You didn't get 2 years, 5 years for drug trafficking, a life sentence. So if the officer of the DPP went through all this trouble to try this case to make sure, yes, life sentence, you're going to spend the rest of your natural life in prison, and then you come and say, well, all right, yes, I agree to the pardon. I agree to the pardon. After your office would have gone through all of that trouble to secure a life conviction for this man, you would sit down with 6 other people and say, yes, I approve. So we need to know, did the DPP say, I don't support this? And I want it on record that I do not support it. Who were the other members? Was it a unit? Did all 7 people say yes? Or did 2 people say no? Or 3 people say no? Right? In which case, so we want to know, did 5 of the 7 say no? But the reason why it wasn't reported is so that it wouldn't come on the DPP's radar that, hey, Mr. So-and-so was pardoned. But the DPP just about what craziness is this? But why we didn't hear this man get pardoned? And I know when we took the decision, 5 out of the 7 of us said no. How that happened? I need to investigate this. So don't report it. So the DPP don't know. Because the DPP's work, I assume, ends when the Mercy Committee meets and they decide after he gone back to his office. And whatever the process involves after that, who have to send what to where to the president to sign off and stuff. So we don't report it, so the DPP is none the wiser. So he and so get pardoned. Right? So he can't say nothing. 5 of them say no, but the 2 of us say yes. So it's yes. But we can pass it under the radio and make sure, hush them out. And hope they never find out. So just make sure the media isn't aware. Right? This must never get back to whoever said no. But then who are all the persons, the individual? The lawyer says several persons involved. So who are the several persons? And unless and until we can define anyone outside of the circle of the main entity that makes the decision, the assumption would be naturally made that the persons involved who needed a little greasing, who needed their palms greased, were in the Mercy Committee. Now I would think that if this happened under Mr. Griffith, he would be quick to say, it wasn't me. The Mercy Committee never met when I was commissioner, so we narrow it down. It leaves 2 others, Jack Warner and Emmanuel George. There's only 3. So 1 of these, or 2 of these men, innocent, and 1 guilty. But we are left, because Mr. Basan gave us half the story and Chingson with the rest. So we are left now to try and figure out, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one of them was the Minister of National Security who chaired that meeting of the Mercy Committee that took the decision to pardon this man. We need to know if the DPP had any objections to it. And if so, what was the basis of this objection? And if there was no objection, why? Why did you not object to this man being pardoned when he was serving a life sentence, which your department was responsible for securing on behalf of the citizens of this country? He needs to clear his name. And any others who know they weren't involved, if they didn't share in the 2.2 million, they need to clear their name. And I would like to think that each and every one of them saw this article on Sunday, right? And if they weren't aware of the conspiracy that took place, they know now. But put them back. 1 year in office and $2.2 million to secure a pardon for a man. But you have idiots coming on my live to tell me about still blaming the UNC, right? Because you know something very wrong with you all up here. I always say you all need a checkup from the neck up. This is the caliber of people you all want to put back into the parliament, that you all want to put in charge of the governance of this country. No conscience whatsoever when it comes to money, right? So they had no problem freeing. You have people on remand. You have people in prison for lesser crimes, small crime, probably who on remand and they can't afford to get bail. They can't afford to post the bail. They have no family, friends, or whatever it is. They're there for a small thing, probably, you know. But you pardon them. But you pardon a foreign national because you find kaka that he pocket deep and you love money bad. But you're afraid jail, as my partner to say. So you get 2.2 million and you dupe the president. This is the second time. So the first time, you all try to get 2 men out of jail, you're not free. Jack Warner told us that the prime minister then received 2 checks, totaling $8 million to create Section 34, right? Which the president signed off, not knowing the background story that led to the proclamation of Section 34, and even the creation of that clause in the legislation. So President number 1 signed, and I think it was Max Richards who would have signed off on that. And then when Mr. Richards, President Richards, found out about the whole Section 34 bacchanal, and he wrote to Kamala Persad-Bissessar, as he is empowered to do under the Constitution, for an explanation as to what happened. She's sick, her attorney dog on him to tell him, you're fast and out of place. Who are you to question me and my government as president? Your role is ceremonial. Sit your backside down. But I hope you know, if they have no term for you, you see, you want to question us? Who the hell are you? Well, you better start packing your bags, because come next year, when it is we need to nominate somebody as president, you know your name ain't being put up. You understand? All right. So I just let it giving you notice. And Mr. Warner came to her defense. He too attacked the president. He said the president out of place to write to the prime minister to ask for an explanation. Don't forget that we don't forget these things. So I want to see if Mr. Warner is going to come out and say, well, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. But he was there for almost 4 months. Emmanuel served for 5. And then Gary came in the latter part, right? So he got the baton. And he ran from September of 2013 until February of 2015 when he got a throat bust in that matter involving Anand Ramlogan. But the question must be asked. Has the DPP gotten a second bite of the cherry with respect to 2 attorneys who were fortunate because of the refusal of the main witness to testify that they got charges dropped against them? Very, very lucky, very fortunate. But is this an opportunity now? Is he getting a second bite of the cherry? Because by the process of elimination, we could try and we could figure out. They say a politician. Had to be a politician sitting on the Mercy Committee. There's only 2 politicians on the Mercy Committee. The Minister of National Security, the Attorney General, and possibly the Prime Minister. So it might be 3. But we're focusing on the 2 that we're sure about. The Attorney General, who we know was no more crooked than Ms. Howard Catt, and the Minister of National Security. And if it was the crook, then we, by a process of elimination, we could figure out who the well-known attorney was. Who would have negotiated the money? Me ain't calling no name. I say I have court closed, but I don't have court time. Right? We could figure it out. But I just ask it. Anybody talking about this? You hear any of them talking about it? But no. This morning, or this afternoon, Jolene John and Munilal having press conference to come and talk about, to clear up issues and misconceptions, and according to them, falsehoods with regards to the Cuba Children's Hospital and whether or not their NICU exists there. That's what they're coming to talk about. But I hope that if members of the real media are invited to come and ask questions, and not the fake media that they make up when they have their waste of time, 1/4 question Sunday morning press conference when they bring in the people pretending to be journalists and giving them a scripted questions to ask. I hope the real media in this country, if they're invited to this press conference or this media briefing, will ask the question. But since we have the two of you here, in October last year, the Minister of Housing spoke to an audit that was done by KPMG, one of the big four audit firms, that shows they were unable to find $789 million in housing that was allegedly was supposed to be built under your tenure. The two of you. You see two of us there, both of you. So the best people to tell us what happened there is the two of you. So we want, since we have the both of you all in this forum, tell us please, where the $789 million in houses could be found. The audit firm is desirous of seeking your assistance, right? Because they can't find it on Waze, they're not finding it on Google Maps. So maybe they could find it on Munilal Maps, right? Or Jolene Ways. Or they could help them out, please. Because since the minister would have brought this to the fore, neither one of you have addressed this issue in any way, form, or fashion. You all pretend like you didn't hear. But I'm almost certain Mr. Munilal would have been in the parliamentary chamber when the minister made that revelation. So he's aware of it. In fact, subsequent to that revelation, it was a front page story. And we know they love to look at the PhD newspapers every day to see if it have anything costing the PNM so they could cite that as an article when they're in the meetings. So media, if all you're listening, please, somebody, anybody, members of the Fourth Estate, please pose that question to these two people today, right? But I remain very disturbed about this article. Very, very disturbed by the lack of public interest, the lack of public discussion on what was a grand conspiracy that involved the highest office in the land and possibly two other high offices, that of Minister of National Security and that of the Attorney General. And we need to know if the Minister of National Security at that time was involved in this conspiracy, if he eat our food, and if it is he is now vying for a seat in the next general election. Perhaps Mr. Bassan could finish the story because you ain't finished, right? I give you a C for this article. You ain't finished that article. You need to go back and do it over. It's like you do a SBA and I review it and parts missing. So you need to go back, wheel and come again. Give us part 2 of this story in this Sunday's Express. In this Sunday's Express, please, Mr. Bassan. We're looking forward. Please and thanks. I'm asking on behalf of the concerned citizens of this country. I'm asking on behalf of the citizens of this country who are interested in good governance, honest, transparent governance, right? Not those who are willing to turn a blind eye to say, well, the UNC get voted out. They got voted out in 2015. But we're willing to bring them back now. Not those. Not like this, whoever is the idiot there who come talking about still blaming the UNC. Who will say, yeah, we are interested in that. But if it was the PNM name call up in this, if it was a PNM Attorney General, and this had happened under the term of Keith Rowley, this same clown would have been happy to talk about that, right? You would be interested in this story. If it was the PNM had done this, the UNC would have beat that like a rented mule for the next month. This, in my mind, warrants a PNM public meeting. We should have been seeing an advertisement for a PNM public meeting since Monday night. If this was the PNM, bet your bottom dollar the story published Sunday morning in the papers. By lunchtime, Kamala would have put out a press release. By lunchtime. Monday night, at the forum, every one of the speakers would have talked about this. They would have called press conference today to talk about it. And all of the usual suspects that the media loves to run to for commentary, we would have heard from all of them already. Where is the Law Association? At least 2 of your members are accused of being part of a conspiracy that tainted the office of the president. Well, they have nothing to say. You know why? I will dare to say, because half of all you are a bunch of crooks supporting your colleagues. Yeah, we band together. You touch one, you touch all. So they have nothing to say, right? Unless, of course, there's a PNM lawyer name mentioned it. But anyway, we have plenty to say. Where is Kyle Taklan Singh? Where is he? You have any comment to make, Mr. Taklan Singh, on that? Or are we just going to let us slide? But all you so love country and want good governance and listening to Jayanti Lakshmi last night. Mr. President, I was so sad and so heartbroken when I read the report that spoke to the breakdown of institutions in this country and how this government's attack on democracy. And when I saw our rating with respect to the corruption index, it broke my heart. Really? You know what contributes to that, Jayanti? To our low performance on the corruption index? Things like this, Jayanti. that you, as an attorney, have nothing to say. Why? Why are you quiet at that? You understand to say? It doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you, Dante. No. It doesn't bother you at all. I'm judge you because yes, look. Lord put honest. Anyway. Fox is already after 8. I ain't setting up my blood pressure. A word to the wise is sufficient. I look forward to whenever we have another public meeting. I don't know. Jen, give me 1 sec. Let me just set this up here. Until we're doing my gosh, it's doing my Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, morning, Dominic. Morning to all those who looked on to Facts and Sabbatics. The magnitude of the corruption and alleged corruption of Kamala Prasad Bissessa and the UNC between 2010 and 15 is mind-boggling. And it seems as though you get out of one, another one comes up.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why it doesn't get the same coverage as if it was PNM would have done those things. And why people will continue to say that we continue to blame the UNC for what happened. Because we don't hear them who oppose the PNM blaming Dr. Eric Williamson since 1966 for all what they consider to be bad in this country. We always hear them go back to the corruption, to the PNM. Here the corruption that we talked about right through. O'Halloran, Privat. And Desmond McCarthy say, all of it.
Yeah.
Totally taken that what Desmond McCarthy said out of context. Because he was talking about if you have to go to work for 8 o'clock and you reach to work 10, 11 o'clock, wherever, you're thief. And down that line, and then he said, all of we thief in context. But you don't ever hear that. We hear about O'Halloran right through, but what we don't hear is that O'Halloran didn't take taxpayers' money. I ain't say what he did was right, but he didn't take taxpayers' money. When you listen to the kind of things that happen under the UNC, even under Mr. Pandey, where they were supposed to be saving money in the now called Inheritance and Stabilization Fund, we end up with a Piaco massive corruption scandal. When under Kamala Prasad Bissessa, who everybody was looking for as a woman, the first female, to do so much and break the ceiling and continue to break it for women, a total failure. We heard under her regime, one of our own, in fact, several of our own members of parliament, it started with a candle dagger, who said they thief money as if they had a right to thief it, as if they invented. We heard Jerry Hadid in conversation talking about these rats, effing rats, and alluding to thieving also. We heard Gary Griffith, who was Kamala's security advisor at one time, then was the Minister of National Security at one time under her, and then became the Commissioner of Police under the PNM. We heard him in a GSC saying that the UNC, PP government, in bed with criminals. We heard all these things. We heard about the life sport, $400 million. The only thing that is here to show for it is the unfortunate deaths. What have the young persons who were supposed to be a part of it, what have they learned? What have they profited from? We heard a man say he get $30-something million and never run a program in the life sport. We saw where Kamala Persad came in Parliament and read out basically the case, and where Anna Roberts was able to use that to say, natural justice didn't happen, and that whole thing squashed. We hear all these things, and people still want to tell us that we only focusing on what the UNC do. Isn't it that history is what we learn from, so we could prevent the same mistake from history in the present and in the future? So if the UNC put on a history of corruption, mayhem, chaos in this country, should we not learn from that, and so that we not make the same mistakes in present and in the future? So if we respond to it, why people have such a hard time with when you say that, but not comfortable if you talk about the PNM and the alleged corruption? And that is the problem we have in this society, this cognitive dissonance. They say one thing, believe in one thing, and believe in something else at the same time. We had a man like Amar come on a radio station that a black man owned and saying, saving is in the DNA of Indian people, but African people don't spend. So what he is saying, that he hasn't expressed, but it's been implied, that in the DNA of African people is to spend and not to save. And why I see that to be very racist, while the two, Uncle Tom and House Negroes, saying, wow, wow, they didn't even understand he was insulting and disrespecting them. I like to tell you how they don't have no understanding of anything because of the hate or the discontentment. An Indian man is telling all you that all your family, all your ancestors, the owner of the radio station that paid all their salary, he has spending in the DNA. And you know why I find that to be racist? But Amar speaks about DNA. DNA has to do with genetics. It has to do how it make up of the body and the cells and those things. Spending and not saving is not a genetic thing. That is a cultural thing, a traditional thing. So in my opinion, he knew exactly what he was saying. And that comment is racist. But I want to ask Mr. Amar, the goodly Mr. Amar, what he did with his father's empire, Bolan Amar. What he did with it? Because apparently, the DNA he's speaking about, he didn't get it. Because today, Amar Motors would have been leading still in this country instead of in his lifetime or something. So Motors and so many other car dealers have shut up since then. When I say shut up, I don't mean physical. I'm talking about grow up quickly. Where's the Amar name? So that's what I tell you, you have to listen to them carefully. Because there's one rule for them. Had anybody, African person, gone on an Indian station, because they like to say 91.9 is an African station, because they say PNM people is African people, and said what Amar said, tax would have done right, the Indian community would have come out, Mahasabha would have come out, UNC would have a Monday night, Tuesday night, Friday night, more, any forum to talk about it. But we have two host Negroes sit down, giggle, 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 and wow, and wow. But not only that, imagine a competitor coming on our next radio station and being interviewed for almost an hour. Because Amar have your radio station, but come on our next man radio station to insult the owners, who is African people, and the two African workers siding with you and laughing and saying, wow. We have plenty of work to do, Dominic. It's not only to you and Ms. Davy and Ms. Felix and Google and John and Darren. All of us have to do the work because the information is there. We can get it, we can read it and understand the difference, compare and contrast. UNC under Kamala Persad and the PNM under Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And if at the end of the day, you're going to watch that and tell me in 2025, You're going to ram your index finger down to your elbow and fold back the UNC in this country. All you're not serious and all they want nothing but for the generation and generation to come. Because the same way Amal said that is how some of them think about us. And I would be as liberal to say, some in the UNC, that's how they think about us. But you know what they don't tell us? Ram Kepalani, Ganesh Ramdial, and so many others. They left so much debt in this country, and none of them have African name or the slave master name. So apparently them didn't get the DNA that Amaro is speaking about. When you look at businesses and how much of them just go and borrow money from the bank and open the business, and the business crash and they just walk away from that normal. And now I'm not talking about all Indian people, because you can't talk about all. But I'm talking about what we have in front of us. And you know money that we got randomly? The same poor African people who can't save and the poor Indian people. It's them money that we borrowing. And while we in the line stand out of putting a little money for savings in the deposit, them walking up the step to go and borrow it. UTC. Who do you think founded that? And who was founded one and what is happening to UTC and the billions they're making? Resilient black men. NIB. Why I think that was created by the People's National Movement, because he also said the KNM never had no economic development plans, only under UNC and Kamala and Pandy. What is NIB? National Insurance, that when you retire at 60, want to pay all your benefits. You're getting every month. You're getting our money. All the social welfare grants that people just get, isn't that to help the young, to help those who are not able? What about the NIST? Isn't that a economic development plan where people right now getting back dividends of it? And I could go on and on, but I want to end by saying, if after all the things you don't be saying, with Felix saying, Juliet, Mr. Ruka, Mr. Pastor Google, John, Darren Marshall, and so many others are saying, and people want to go back and vote for the UNC, well, they're free to do that. They're very free to do that because this is a democratic country. But don't turn around and look for Dominic and Sean Felix and Google and Juliet and all the rest of them come to tell me not to talk about it. Take it and take it with grease. Because who don't hear, they say us feel. Dominic, you have a blessed morning and thank you always for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Jen. And you know what we should be concerned about? Kamala will stand up on a platform and tell you there are 309,000 voters in this country who have no problem with this, right? And I want you all, to the people, the individual who had put about still blaming UNC, I want to draw one thing to your attention. After Marlene McDonald was charged, that was the end of her political career, right? David Lee is currently before the court on $1 million bail for fraud. Guess what? I'm absolutely certain the screening committee will screen him and he will once again run for the seat. Because you know what they're saying? That is PNM setup. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. First thing, can I please have you Father God today? For every debunking member, listener, caller, Father, God, I pray I bless them. Lord, I pray, Father God, increase them spiritually, Father, financially, oh Lord God, emotionally, oh Lord God, mentally, Father. God, I bless the work of our hands, Father, that, oh Lord God, you said that if we ask, we shall receive, Father. And God, I stand and I ask on every debunking member, UNC Cabal member, Father, they bless us, oh Lord God. And great your portion. God, I prophesy over us today, Father, that you will step in. Pharaoh thought he was all that. But God, you came like a mighty rushing wind and it scattered Pharaoh. And every Pharaoh that stands in the pain and way, Father God, will bow. They have no choice but to back up and go. Pharaoh, we command you now to go, just name. I bless Lavatil. I bless Mover. I bless Beacom, Father. God, I bless the Alris youth, Father. I call you out of darkness into light. I prophesy you will be the next great businessman. You'll be the African Amar. You'll be the best you can be. You're gonna be the waterfall and not the drain. I call for the diamonds in you. I call for the best carat gold. I call for gold from the old time days, from back in Genesis, where gold was gold. I call for the hidden gem in you. I call for the oil in you. I call for the nutrients in you. From the earth you came, and you will not go back to the earth with void, but you shall return to you, pressed down, shake hands together, running over for the Psalm 23. God, I bless you for your work you do. I pray God's blessings and protection over you and to Jenny and to all who call. Amen, amen.
Amen.
I had to pray first before certain things, right? I was listening to Fraud Can about the destructiveness. Fraud with your children, with one your father. You're out of place. You should have been sued for your mouth. Their business wasn't public fodder. How dare you dismiss people? How dare you expose them? Carmen, where were you for that? Did you hold them over the court? You dismiss people's grief. How dare you be so cold and callous and heartless? How could you take joy? Was Khan fired? No, he wasn't fired. No. He was there. That if you want to fully by the government, go back from 2010 to 2015 plus and sue the government, that government, for every child who died. Go after Khan, strip him there. And Mr. Amar, you next one. African people boycott Amar. Since we do not save, we must boycott Indian people. Boycott and bankrupt them. And then one more thing, we don't tell you the Travis scandalous, we don't come up with this now, we say Travis scandalous.
Yes.
He might ask for some who pays a bed ticket and pay first class. So have a good day, be blessed, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we must bear in mind, Robert Amar doesn't speak for all persons of East Indian descent. Yeah? So we ought to, in this instance, confine his what I would consider to be, unfortunately, a racially poisoned opinion. And that you had those two clowns supporting that. And wow, and then basically endorsing that this man is insulting you, insulting your heritage. These two are a discredit to their race. Because when there is ample evidence, and I mean, a man like Amar who likes to present himself as somebody in the know and you're bright, you must know that there is sufficient evidence to disprove your theory. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. You know what's even worse than that? The majority of the presenters on your radio station are of African descent. You have another 3 clowns on the Underground Report every morning. Lennox Smith, Andy Williams, and Michael Koo. Yeah? 3 LBAs. They're on your radio station, you saying that, and this supporting that. They wouldn't call you out and pull you up. You have this next clown, I don't know if she's still with him because I haven't listened in a while. She used to go by the name of Ruby D. She used to share a program with him, jointly host this program. And on the few occasions that I listened, this man used to have this woman say the nastiest, the most vile and disgusting things about Dr. Rowley. Calling Dr. Rowley a nasty old dog. And okay. What she didn't call Dr. Rowley, what she didn't say about him is probably what she forget. Right? The worst of things this woman said about Dr. Rowley. About Amari. If he tell her, no. Just like he was giggling like a little schoolgirl with the two of them. The same thing. Same thing he was doing. But anyway, Brian.
Good morning, Dominic.
Good morning.
Morning to your listeners and callers. Dominic, I was listening to I-95.5 that morning when I heard Tony Lee begin to speak about this after 8:30. He began to read it. And then when he called out, when he identified 3 things for me. Because he didn't go into depth like you. He identified 3 things for me. One, he identified it was about 11 years ago. He also identified 2 names. One was Herbert Volney, who is dead. And the other one apparently seemed to be the author of the report, which was Mark Bassant. If you all recall Mark Bassant left UNC to go across to TV6 because, as he said at the time, allegedly, that they never took him on whenever he brought certain investigative reports to him. And he had a lot of information on certain reports and he wanted to get it out there. So they didn't take him on. So he left them and he went across to TV6. Okay, cool. But when he spoke about this, when Tony Lee began to read out certain things in the story, I called a colleague of mine and I spoke to him about it. Daily, no? Yeah. Like he wasn't interested.
Yeah, he wasn't interested.
Like it was nothing big for him. You understand? He just like how the Passover was just yesterday. I believe it was a Monday. Yes. He passed it over.
Yeah.
You understand? But I called somebody and I said, "Have you heard this story?" I said, because this story, for it to be true, and if it is true, and I wouldn't doubt Mark Bassant, this has to include some serious people in that then government. Because those things don't happen. You don't pardon people just so. And the power of the pardon via the pen, although you have the mercy committee, the final sign-off on that is the president. And then $2.2 million pass. I say, have we heard anything about that over all these years? Nothing. And this just passed over. And we need to get names. Because if, as you said, the shoe was on the other foot, there would be big inquiries. You know, I heard Wade Mark bringing questions in the parliament as he normally does to find out who was the president, who was the attorney general, who was the Minister of National Security, who was on the mercy committee at the time, who signed off on this,
but
who
Brian,
collected the money, where's the money, what happened to the money?
Brian, the thing is, right? The thing is that, as you mentioned, Dale Enoch and Tony Lee, right? It is the same way. I could have just go and Google who are the persons that constitute the mercy committee. They could have done that. They have Roger Gaspard's number. They've interviewed him numerous times on that station. You tell me they couldn't call him and ask him for comment on that, as to whether or not he knew he's aware of this, and if he was in support, if he lent his support to this individual being pardoned, or if his was a dissenting voice. But as you said, Dale Enoch wasn't interested in that. Move on.
No. And Tony Lee passed when he realized that Dale was not interested. He said, well, Robert Volney there, so we can't ask him nothing. But you could ask Mark Bassant.
Yeah.
You are the president of OCN. You want to tell me you can't delegate and tell people, go and find out exactly who were the people involved and what went on? and investigate. Mark Bassan, you can call Mark Bassan and ask Mark Bassan, what information do you have for us to hear live? You talk like it, well, only that's what I hear that. Really? No. There are other people involved. Because as you indicated, and that was information that I did not even know, that there were other people because they asked for a further $200,000 US. So that means there were other people to pay.
Correct.
Quote unquote, allegedly. And therefore, if it was 2 million, and then we got to 2.2, somebody had to make the request because there was a reason to make the request of an additional $200,000.
And I am sure that 200,000 was not a figure they just pull out of a hat. There was
Exactly.
rhyme and reason to that figure.
Because somebody must say, hey, what about me?
Yeah, if you want me to put to risk my freedom, all you have to compensate me good.
That is the point I'm making. And I spoke to I called somebody on this. And I said, did you hear it? They said, no, I didn't. I said, go listen to this, because this goes over everybody's head. Look at all these years. Nothing. And this is important for us to know, well, who is this individual who got this pardon? Who is he affiliated to? Because he can be just no ordinary prisoner. He has to be affiliated with somebody of importance to make these calls, especially if it is somebody from outside of Trinidad and Tobago. Let us know whether it's from inside or outside.
But in addition to that, Brian, I think that they said that the sister of the guy is a government official. I would think that the prime minister of that country would want to know if he has a corrupt person in his cabinet.
But of course, so who asks any questions besides you and I, Dominic? And anybody else who's listening? Who asking those pertinent questions? Who is, as they say MTDT, who is delving deeper? You tell me. And as Sister Jenny said, how much more are we going to find out before 2025 election? The food card scenario, $30,000, and they could just replenish it on a daily basis. And everything is all about money, Dominic, money with these people. Where was Kamala Prasad, Miss Sessa? Where was she? All of a sudden, now you're so care and you're so concerned about these children that you're according to you, your most famous and experienced attorney, going back how long? 2022, you're going back now. How far back you will go back till 2015? September? How many children were born between then and now and are alive today? So that's another story. I don't want to go into that yet because I want to wait on the outcome of the PAHO investigation. That them say it's local people. UNC say that is the government people. PAHO. Three people come into your country to do an investigation, but them is government people. As if we so dotish to know that PAHO is a subsidiary of the World Health Organization. In many countries around the world who sign on to WHO. And three people come into the country, but they must be holidaying outside. There must be trainees that come in. This is the stupidity, and people latch on to this and talk the most amount of rambunctious stupidness I've ever heard. But that's another story, as I'm saying again. Because you see, Dominic, a man got shot a couple of days ago, and he was identified as the brother of a witness in Trinidad and Tobago for a case where 6 police officers were accused of murder and were incarcerated. Anybody studying that? An innocent man gone down because he was affiliated to who? And this is the fear I have with these people. That certain things just going down just so, and it ain't no big thing. And you have certain people coming in the parliament and talking about the government and the separation of powers and all sorts of crap when they were the main conspirators of identifying people and ridiculing them in public. Look at the EBC. I have to keep talking about it simply because when you have your internal election, you have a problem because more than 3 people on your side, some of them present members of parliament say the boxes come stuffed. Not me, them say so. I repeat it after them. According to Tony Lee, don't blame me. Blame them because they say I repeat it after them. Your boxes come stuffed, but you can't stop in national elections, in local government. You can't stop the boxes. So what do? You ridicule people in the EDC. You call them corrupt. You call them friends and family of the PNM. That is what you do. Dennis Rambali spoke about it. Randall Mitchell identified it in the parliament yesterday. And you read up from what Dennis Rambali said. When you can't, when you are accused of something, you say, oh, we are affiliated to the PNM. And when I tell you I am not, look for another excuse. That's what they do. And people run with that. People want to go and vote them back into office. If that is what they did in their first 5 years, 3 months and 14 days, then we're calling for election. No. What them could do, Dominic, if we fail to vote and put back the PNM to get rid of this corrupt set of people who matters cannot seem to be completed in our courts. You have a man who before the court on serious criminal matters, and he making bacchanal but not in these 7 babies, but additional babies, and is able to go into the court and stand up before a judge and be called senior counsel, and he has matters to answer. This is why I tell you, the Constitution Reform Committee is supposed to be dealing with issues like these. That when you have a matter before the court, you cannot practice unless you are cleared. How long that matter will stay outside of, when will it be completed? His matter. When? You have always told us about the prison gate. When that will be completed? I can guarantee you and I can bet you it will not be completed before the next election. And these are some of the problems we have in Trinidad and Tobago that these so-called learned people not talking about. You understand? One man coming and talking about, oh, it don't have enough opposition members in the upper house. It should have more. Right now, 15 on the government side. I mean, that look like what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about. I have to listen to yesterday, former footballer talking about, oh, he was one of the best footballers in Trinidad, and he saw this, and Sukla was suffering from hysteria.
Yes.
And he's so cool, and he saw this, and he saw that. This was a man who was in a Lebanese jail. And it wasn't for Patrick Manning, the late Patrick Manning, and to the next time Jack Warner, he would still be there. This was a man who was in a jail in Lebanon. But he coming out to talk in my parliament. I want to back up this government. I'm talking about all sorts of things that don't make sense at all. This was a man who wrote the DPP almost 11 times to do something about Dr. Rowley. I'm talking about they don't personalize issues. 11 times. Where are we going? And I have to sit down and listen to these people. I waited to see where this matter going, Dominic. I am waiting to see. I waited to see what happened to that guy who was murdered just a couple of days ago. And I want to know whether or not that matter will resume or it will just, or I believe it's finished now because they have gotten back their job. And that's the end of that.
But you see, Brian, the other thing on the flip side of it, we would have seen where two attorneys, you know who the two attorneys are talking about,
Yeah.
against whom the charges were dropped not so long ago because the main witness refused to testify. And if in this instance we have one main witness, as identified in this article, if charges are eventually brought against whoever is this politician and this attorney, can we then expect that after we get all hyped up, yeah, they catch them, Maggie, because the main witness refused to testify or disagree?
But Dominic, let's go back to Piako. Let that matter get thrown out.
Yeah, it take too long
Right.
and witness migrate and witness die and all kind of thing.
But so what do you think happened to the other three parts of this Piako situation? I think if it is a DPP telling you after throughout a part 3 of it, so there's still part 1, part 2, and part 4. Well, why you think all yet? We're waiting on. You need more evidence? Dominic, have a good day, bright brother.
You too, sir. I mean, I have, what should I put it? I have utmost respect for the DPP, but you know, sometimes he makes some decisions that just have me baffled. You know? Baffled, like when he agreed to meet with those folks representing the diverse families, right, and gave them whatever assurances they claimed. Things like that. And in an instance like this, where this article came out Sunday, one would have thought that DPP would be quick to speak to this issue and to make it known what was, but then again, they would say, well, it's under police investigation and therefore the DPP, since, no, the DPP, if it is that in fact, whenever charges are brought, if charges are brought in this matter, he has to recuse himself because he would have sat on the mercy committee when this decision was taken, so he cannot make the decision to charge or not charge if it is that his name going and get called up in the mess. So it would be left to whoever is the deputy DPP to speak on this matter, and therefore, in those circumstances, since he, Roger Gaspard, has to recuse himself, there is nothing preventing him from just making the point to say, well, look, this is what happened. I don't know anything about this. It was a dissenting. But I find our DPP sometimes is conveniently quiet. He don't speak much. He doesn't speak much. But when he does decide to speak, you know, and that's the problem. That is the problem as a public official. He can't, if that is the approach he has decided to take, so people say, well, they don't really hear much from DPP, so don't expect to hear nothing. Well, then the media needs to reach out to him because he's not going to call a press conference and speak on this matter. So he has to be approached for him to say something. And the people need to know, because we have a general election coming up just now, and you have people, at least 200,000 persons, who would be more than willing to turn a blind eye to this and still go and cast their ballot, even if we find out who is the attorney, and this attorney decides to offer himself for that party to run for a seat, people will vote for him. Imagine they could put somebody like that in a safe seat, and in spite of the fact that you read this, you say, politicians, all them politicians is thieves, so what? The PNM invent corruption. I tell you, if all you want to say the PNM invent corruption, no problem. But the UNC refined it, you all mastered it, you mold it, you craft it. The PNM have a school leaving pass in corruption. The UNC only have PhD and qualifications and certification are probably not even invented yet. The same way you all invented innovative ways to thief, the qualification that you all deserve for that level of ingenuity has not yet even been conceived. Maybe you all could create it. Eric.
Hello. Morning to the viewers and the listeners of this program. Now, you see, the DPP was only sugarcoating everything. That's why they, let's hold on there. Yeah, that's why the Ramgota and them could get rid of all this kind of thing. But I think, in my purview, once you have charges to answer, you are not allowed to practice any law in our country. But then again, in Trinidad and Tobago, anything goes.
We are the exception to the rule.
You understand? Right? Anything goes. Now, we're talking about all these things, right? You realize it's one topic and one story that they touching at all. The Hannah Motura investigation. You ain't hear a word about that. You understand? Where is the MP for that area? You ain't hearing nothing about that. You know why? Because they have East Indian descent. You realize the media ain't bringing that story up at all. They said once or twice. That was Monday, and that was it. All the people back now is about the baby's death and the neonatal ward in Port of Spain. That's all the people back on right now. They ain't coming and say who is responsible for Hannah Matura's death and the body that were found in the yard where she lived. You hear nothing about that. But you know why? That is important in Reebok, in the USD camp. That is important. The most important is let us continue jamming Minister Dial Singh and the government about these deaths of the babies and them. That is what them focusing and using the people's emotion in this situation to wild up the population. To say, you see, I told all you, look what happening. So they live from the economy and they're going to health now. You see, Dominic, this woman, right? She have nothing to really bring forward to the country, right? Okay. All is a viable option to get into government next year. What are you all plans and policy? God forbid that all win the election next year. All you have nothing. So what? Are you going to reinstate Ministry of Home Affairs, Live Sports Reloaded #2, Economy Orange, the Ministry of Water and Environment, all these things that what you had in 2010 that fall flat. You want to revive it in 2025? Really? And you see, Dominic, people in this country have a tendency. They don't like this one and they like that one, and give them a chance and give them a chance and give them a chance. Look happening in 2010. Look happening now to be going from since 2021. There's always say once a mistake, twice is a habit. So if people ain't seeing what's going on now, when they go see it, and this is where the PRO and the social media and all these people have to come out, and every day you have to debunking all these lies and propaganda that the UNC is putting out in the public, right? Kamla talking about opening the hospital in Vancouver, right? And I had said it yesterday on Juliet's program. Why they didn't come out and say what the seismologists from the Earthquake Research Center, Dr. Joe Lutchman, would have told or instructed the then Prime Minister before constructing that hospital in Vancouver? The seismologist told her, Prime Minister then, that if you build this hospital, God forbid an earthquake strike, that $1.5 billion to spend will come to naught. Or you built it on an earthquake fault line. Dominic, me no geologist. I'm not a passing geography, but dynamo it has certain things I will know. Dr. Ronnie I said that too. Right? So you realize that they talking about that. Open the hospital. What next? If I or the structure the land, or they studying that. But you have this clown coming on the radio, right? and making statements about the PRM have all this suffering, right? And all of us feel like maybe 1% to get surgery done. And all the people dead. And you feel nice and you feel glad about making such statements. I might have my affiliation with the PNM. I ain't saying no. But I would not come on a public platform or a radio station where I have a mass of listeners to make such statements like that. You understand? But I'll always say, ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. And you see them words he say on Monday, it will come back to haunt him. Because it's the same PNM people, right, have your life today. You ain't studying that. When Sharon and Google and Juliet and one or two callers up there on 919 was up and down trying to get things for you. This is the payment you're gonna give people. But what to all you, boy? Yeah, I'm saying you want to all you. Heavy is portraying just what Kamala does on her platform. Fear-mongering the masses. Plant seeds in the African people's mind that the government ain't here about all year. The PNM and Dr. Roddy and them wicked and bad, and the health sector is the worst. All you want, you come to say that you want here to be like, it's some country in Asia. I think it's Taiwan, not Taiwan. One country in Asia.
Singapore.
Right? Singapore. But all you want development status in the country, yet still only thinking fifth world mentality. Right? You're saying, oh, yesterday made some statement yesterday. Right? But I didn't have to I know this is that program, but it was told to me that some statement he made yesterday. And the bugger refused to apologize. Now, me ain't saying that if you had apologized there and then, when you make a statement the Monday, people will be upset still, but it will reach to this point. You come yesterday and up to the day, you refuse to apologize. But then again, that brown bag that I want to get from Munilal last year, August, in the election, is looking better. I hope that brown bag, right, will continue and will have you living from now till, right? Because if all you want to sell this for 10% for personal gain, so be it. 919 gone show. And as Julian said, if Julian leave that program or leave that station, Dominic, that's it. But woe be unto them. I want Kamala and them to look into that matter with Hannah Mutura and the family with that investigation that it says how it means. And then we're going to know who is who. Dominic, good program. I love on and I listen.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Dominic,
Oh, Lord. Leave it there.
what's going on?
All is well.
Look here, boy.
What conspiracy you come in with this morning?
So, Dominic, I hear Shamfa Kojo blaming PNM supporters in Tobago for losing the elections.
I blame them too.
So, Dominic, she ain't gonna blame Dr. Rowley. She ain't gonna blame Philip Tracy and all of them on the PNM Council for all the nonsense they did in Tobago. but blame PNM supporters.
Oh boy.
Dominic, PNM won the 2015 and 2020 general elections.
Mm-hmm.
The supporters went out and voted.
Mm-hmm.
But as they lost the election in Tobago,
Mm-hmm.
blame the supporters.
That's right.
That is making sense to me,
Making
Dominic.
plenty sense.
But as I tell you, I ain't done with them yet.
Uh-huh.
I will leave it there for now.
Thank you. Over 16,000 Tobagonians voted for the PNM for the general election, and only about 11 or 12,000 came out for THA. Where the next 4? Where the next 5? Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Yes, hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
The same thing. Yeah, we wish. Yeah, very much remember it. He has an and it's the same thing. That you don't wish people this, but that's everybody. Okay?
Yes.
Huh? That's all you wishing is them people. He has to remember. Because he has the PNM blood in it.
Mm-hmm.
And say, you have to go along that same road where you, right? You don't wish people this. Life is too short. But then, okay, so
Yes.
I hope you
Thank you.
always remember. Bless the Dominic.
You too. Thank you. Good point, caller. Remind him that PNM blood running through his, coursing through his veins. Remind him of that. PNM blood coursing through your veins, but like he didn't get PNM intelligence from it. Yeah. Idiocy genes was too strong. Oh, Lord. Folks, it's 9:05. Right? My cutoff time should ideally be 9 o'clock because I have a million things to do today before I leave for my trip. Oh Lord, Eric Collins beat up and leave. Eric.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, before I go, Dominic?
Mm-hmm.
I hear Lividia saying that Minister Shamfa Kojo Lewis is blaming the Tobagonians for what's going to be go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree with her 100%. Right? Because back in 2021, when Farley Disgusting make allegations on Tracy Diversity about the ziplining, that reminds me of the same propaganda with Colahat and Unicott in Trinidad in 2009. Right? When the road on the backs of that ziplining fiasco with Tracy in 2021, right? To get into office. Yeah, so leave it there. When you're making sense, make good sense now, or else don't come and make no kind of contribution that ain't worth, right, talking about. Because clearly you forget that Farley Disgusting and Watson Duke, right, piggyback on that same fiasco and get into office in Tobago. That's why now Tobago is reeling and they're boiling right now. Whatever opportunity next year to do what I have to do. But I know Tobagonians, not the Trinidadians. You fool me once, it will never second time. You understand? So leave it there. Go and make some love to your woman or your wife or something now, and leave people, let them make good contribution now. You're not listening.
Thank you, sir. Last call. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Trinidad and Tobago. You see that issue in Tobago?
Mm-hmm.
Dominic,
Yes,
it was a lie that get them there. They didn't spend a whole year and they dismantle. What I'm doing is trying to hold on to power, but there's a God above. That lie will hunt them to the end. And if Tobagonian people continue with them, that island gonna reach that impoverished island with them riding. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good morning. Hello?
Dominic,
Leave it there.
you know I don't like to call twice. Dominic,
Yes, sir.
if I have a gentleman in Tobago by the name of Mr. Cunningham. Back in the days, he won elections for the PNM in Tobago already. Philip, Tracy, and them, they left him out the same way they did Miss Angus. You think Tobagonians wasn't watching all that nonsense they were doing, Dominic? Eric, makes sense, eh? Dominic, I will leave it here.
Thank you, sir. And I will remind you, in 2010, Mr. Manning left out Penny from Arima. Right? I know Mr. Manning is your boy, but he left out Penny from Arima. Penny, when she was rejected by the screening committee to run for Arima, she went to Lauketa Talparo and she got rejected there too. People say that contributed to the loss in 2010. But I will repeat what Champa Kojo said, is only PNM could mash up PNM. Once the PNM holds united, that is why them other pretenders, them mocking pretenders, right? I say mocking. I don't know what word Padarat used on Monday night, but I say them mocking pretenders on them. That is why they had to come together and form coalition. And we must come together and stand up and to get rid of this PNM. Because even when the PNM is fractured, they're still strong. But we could be stronger. As I say, hold the line when it's important. But we, PNM people, for the simplest thing, you voted you're vexed with Dr. Rowley because, or you're vexed with this one because you ain't get a road, or you ain't get water for a few weeks. I understand these things could be trying and taxing. But is it enough of a reason for you to say you have voted? And as I say, it's not, you don't need to vote for the UNC for them to win. No. You could choosing not to vote for the PNM could also result staying home and saying you're not dipping your finger because all them politicians is the same and you're fed up. Understand that there are consequences. Because even if you want to cast all of them in the same mold and say all the politicians is the same thing and nothing will change, understand that even if you find when the PNM in power, you find they ain't doing enough. Because the PNM's position is always macro. We need to do everything as much as we can to develop the country, but the resources is insufficient to do it to the extent or the magnitude that they would like. So we have to do a little bit here and a little bit here to try and improve. The UNC is populist and they understand that, you know what, to earn the loyalty and the fealty of people, you need to go and put things in their hand. Put things in their hand. Give them grants and stuff. They like that because it's money coming directly in their hand. They don't want to hear about the PNM using the money to develop an area so everybody could use. Yeah, but that didn't benefiting me personally. That didn't put no money in my pocket or food on my table. That's what I want. I just want that. I want to raise my hand somehow, come up with a way. Right? And when we find that is the focus of the PNM, which is to do as much as we can to benefit as many as we can, we vex. Because I am an activist and I am a supporter and I supported the PNM for how much years and whatnot, and the PNM supposed to do this and they're supposed to do that for me. I will admit they could do more for the supporters, but understand when the PNM does or tries to do for their supporters, you always have the UNC backline waiting to come front and run to the courthouse and claim discrimination. But when the UNC in power and they helping out their people, their supporters, where the PNM backline, you know what it be? We call in the radio station, Aisha, this government, they only doing things for their own. We call in Google, this government only doing things for their own. But that's as far as we go. Who going in the courthouse? Who going in the courthouse to claim discrimination? For this, we reach in social media and the radio, and we good there. But if UNC taking it full, to the fullest, if they had to go to the Privy Council and all, The battery of lawyers waiting to run to say that the PNM, just so that to get this program stopped so the PNM cannot build any loyalty. But not PNM people. We only go in so far and then we stop there. And we complain and hope that when the next election come around that enough people fed up and see the corruption and decide to vote out the US, which is what happened last time. But when it is that you have people like Professor Misinformation and Captain Clueless talking about we are number one and you all made us number one and we are the future of talk radio and all that kind of foolish rhetoric. And you listen to some of the callers who calling in people like Kunji and Kingsley and KFC and Mr. West and all of these people, right? Who don't know their assembly from the elbow, but calling to talk about, I went and did research and only Trinidad is the only country in the world where you have a shortage of foreign exchange. But I just went and as I hear that, pull out my phone and Google it and see right next door in Guyana, where they have all the oil that you could want, they too have a shortage of US. Their businessmen are also facing a struggle to get US dollars, right? Simple thing, but he do all this sort of research and he come and talk that up. And then they will pull people like Robert Amar who figure he know all and people, because you know the IQ quotient of the supporters and listeners of that program, right? If somebody like Robert Amar come and talk a pack of nonsense, they will run with that because Mr. Amar is a businessman. And you know Robert Amar, yeah, and if he says so, it's so. He says so, my foot. There was nothing of substance that Robert Amar said. In that whole discourse, nothing of substance, nothing that make any sense. And for a man of his caliber, right, he did himself a great disservice. Can't fool people like me. Not me. Because I will go and do my research. So when he wants to come and talk nonsense about where all the oil money gone and we had to oil boom and we should have been like Dubai, all they talking nonsense. If Dubai was sell and Dubai get oil after us, and this is something that upsets me with Professor Misinformation, always talking about Qatar and Dubai. We never sell the amount of barrels of oil that Qatar and Dubai sell. So obviously, they would have gotten more money than us. And in our heyday, when we were producing at our highest, the price of oil was what, between $7 and $13 a barrel. Dubai selling oil at $18, $19, and $100 a barrel. Millions of barrels at $100 versus 250,000 barrels at $13 and $10. What you expect? They have always had more money for development. Who have more corn feed, more fowl? But like these two idiots, these two disgrace, these two, I don't know what else to call them, coming every evening. Oh, the future talk radio is so popular and people like me and they like to hear what we say. People like to laugh at all here. You all provide comic relief. Comic relief if you're going home, you're living in the east or in central or south, and there's plenty of traffic and you're looking for a good laugh. You're looking for humor, right? You want to laugh at how stupid two men could be? You let's listen to that. Turn on to 91.9 between 4 and 7, and you could get a good laugh all the way till you reach home. That's all they're good for, comic relief and nothing else, but fooling themselves and figure they're bright and they know all. Just as bad. And the listeners and supporters, you are only even worse. But I'm not even going to bother to listen to that to stand up my blood pressure because I know I'll come here and try to debunk, but it's a waste of time trying to debunk anything for the people who listen and who love that and always calling those clowns and telling them, good job. Heaven help us. Brian.
2 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Guyana must have more oil than Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no US dollars.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't have US dollars. More oil than Dubai. Huh? Anybody talking about that? More and watch me. They're gonna ramp it up to I said $1 billion. I apologize. It's 1 million barrels that they're going to ramp it up to.
Yes.
1 million, and they have no US dollars. 2% royalty. Sim Sanka, the talk show host on BBC, asked the chairman of Exxon, why is he doing this to these people? And I tell them they're getting a good deal.
Yes.
That's why they called Trinidad and Tobago down here to see they could help them take it out of the morass and the corruption and the rape that they didn't have the education and the know-how enough because they saw that, hey, we don't want nobody. We will do this ourselves and watch them today. Imagine today how much oil come out of the ground in Guyana and gone away. And all you broken for US dollars? Really?
Thank you, sir. I will tell you, if Trinidad, if we had 1 year of oil production like Ghana, just one, and you'll see 675,000 barrels of oil per day, 1 year is all we need under this current administration, under the Duen, under the engineer, who was able to realize a budget surplus for the first time in 14 years. But under the man who they pay 11.625 million, 5 years. Well, he was there for 4 years, 3 months and 14 days. Never get a budget surplus, right? But we pay he 11.6 million, 6.25 to leave for citizens, and then was paying him $41,000 a month plus other perks as well for the time that he was there. And he couldn't give us 4 years of budget deficits, right? But get the Duen, if we had 1 year, like I could tell you, that the Heritage and Stabilization Fund would be ram out with money. I could tell you that. In addition to that, the country's foreign reserves, well, we good for years to come. And all we need is 1 year under the current management, right? But under that other team, get them that 1 year at 675 barrels a day. You know what's going to happen there? I don't need to tell you. Folks, enjoy your day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Make it a productive one. We will play Sunday by air, because when I get to Dominica tomorrow and I receive my itinerary for the next week, I'll see what they have planned for Sunday, and then I'll be able to take it from there. But I know Tuesday, definitely next week, I wouldn't be available because proceedings start pretty early. Thursday, I should be able to do the live because the conference wraps up on Wednesday, and then we have like 2 free days to see Dominica, right? So yeah, and I said I come back on Friday, and then Sunday morning I head out again. So next week Sunday, not this Sunday, next Sunday, I'm pretty certain I wouldn't have any live because I'll be airborne at my lifetime. Yeah. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all so much. Winston, thank you so much. Trevor, Breaks, Pool, Daula, Sarah, thank you all so much. Sherwin, thank you. Hollows, Denise, thank you guys. Yeah, so I'll make every effort to chat with you all on Sunday. Well, let's see what's going to transpire between today and Sunday. But I'm pretty sure nobody in the UNC going to talk about this, right? If it's a lie, then you should have no worries, no fear. Talk about it. If it's untrue, if it's PNM propaganda, come and bring your evidence and show that the PNM is PNM again, right? But this happened early in 2011. So I'd love to see how they're going and pin this on the PNM. But notice none of them talk about it. That tells you something. Let sleeping dogs lie. And so far, the PNM camp has done them a favor, right? They're hoping that this will just 9-day wonder. And so far, it seems as if we inclined to facilitate and assist them in that. Well, we'll see what will happen. Okay, folks, that was nice. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Yes, we will continue the fight. Thanks, Veronica, Agnes, thank you so much. Alicia, Ruben, Rena, Rockman, thank you guys. JH, thank you. JH, Sunday, depending on what my itinerary is for Sunday, it may be the usual time of 11 or maybe a little later than that. Yeah, but I'll be able to confirm that tomorrow when I get to Dominica. Kurt Shaw, thank you all so much. Anne-Marie Montique, Amos Cambridge, Patricia McKenzie, thank you guys. Alison Boyce, yeah, so that's it for me today, folks. Spread the word, right? Make sure until the officials of the party start talking about it, let us talk about it and ensure that this remains on the front burner. Because if it speaks to the fact that these people have a voracious appetite for money. And if $2.2 million US couldn't do it, if kickbacks from what do you call it? From briefs, legal briefs, couldn't satisfy them, right? And how much other money they thief, then we know for sure if they get back into office, there is no limit to how much more, because it can't be satisfied. It can't be satisfied because for most of us, even if we had gotten 100,000, 200,000 US or even $1 million US, we good for life. But for them, that could never be enough. We have a problem.